right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Highlight Reel, another edition of our World Championship podcast coverage. This is episode 6, I believe. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is good to see you again for another week, for another show today. I'm coming at you not so live from a very rainy, very stormy evening here in Nashville. And so I'll go ahead and apologize in advance if you guys can hear some of the thunder from outside, but a lot of storms going on here. But yeah, State of the Union, ladies and gentlemen, as we go into another week. It's been a good week of Halo, by the way. Let me just start off with that. Had a lot of fun this week. But State of the Union, big things that happened this week. Obviously, we have one day of Pro Series that's happened, and also we have another day that, as you guys are watching or listening to this, the second day of that Pro Series will be happening. But the big things that happened this week are we got a Tommy Lucid video, which I should have looked up what it was called, but it's I think it's called something to the effect of "We need to talk about Halo Infinite." We got a video out of Tommy Lucid where essentially he's talking about the state of the game and his opinion on the state of the game and where it needs to go. And it was a lot of stuff about how, from the pros' perspectives, how their feedback doesn't really feel heard, and just basically all this stuff. Like, there was a lot mentioned about how he thinks that there's changes for the game and updates for the game and content for the game takes too long and all this stuff. So I should have probably done like a reaction video to it or something. But it was a good video. Obviously it was just his perspective on the whole the state of the game and how everything's going. But definitely he made a lot of good points, and definitely I would encourage you guys to go check that video out if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it yet, excuse me. But essentially that video, and then also this is the other big thing that happened, or I guess hasn't happened yet, is that we still do not have the dates for the Atlanta Major. For those of you that don't know, on the HCS roadmap, the next two tournaments are, we have the Quadrant Major in London, which is in about 3 weeks, give or take, and the next major after that is supposed to be the FaZe Major that's being hosted by FaZe in Atlanta. And the qualifier for that event, I believe, is June 22nd and 23rd, if I'm correct about that. And so it was supposed to be that event was going to be in July, but obviously there has been no announcement to this point, and I don't know, I wasn't thinking too much about it, but there have been a lot of rumblings this past week that maybe that event's not happening anymore. Now, I just want to go on the record and say that I know nothing. I don't have any contacts. I don't have any sources. I don't actually have any sort of information or insider knowledge. I know I say this a lot, but I feel like I have to specify. I'm talking shit here. Basically, I'm reporting what I'm hearing from the streets. You know what I'm saying? Just from the Twitch chats and the Twitter timeline and all that. But there seemed to be, and I don't know if this is like just people panicking and kind of worrying, or if there's any actual substance and legitimacy to it. But people seem to be worried that the event's not even going to happen anymore. And I think a lot of that worry stems from, if you guys have been paying attention recently, there's been a lot of sort of controversy and turnover within FaZe as an organization and a company recently. Obviously, if y'all missed it, they just recently had the whole thing where they released a lot of their members and sort of only retained like a lot of the core few members, and so there were pieces that were moving around, and there were people that were coming and going, and there was a lot of confusion, and there was some drama with people feeling like they I think unfairly were let go. And so I believe none of that affected their actual like esports side of things, like their Call of Duty team, their Halo team, their everybody who was employed by them or on one of their teams, I believe is fine. But a lot of people are saying that what that draws into question, especially if there's some shaking up in phase with the higher ups, is will there still be approval for there to be an event, or maybe that's something that new management doesn't want to spend money on, or maybe it's not just maybe it's just not part of the new organization's process or whatever. Now again, I don't know if there's any actual legitimacy to that, or if people are just kind of panicking because we're getting closer to the event and we don't have any dates yet. But yeah, certainly would like to hear something about that pretty soon, even if it's some unfortunate news. Because as we've been talking about, I think for a couple weeks now, it was a big problem for the London event as well. The longer that you wait to announce the dates for these tournaments, the harder it becomes for people to travel to them, because obviously people have stuff going on. People have to schedule, people have to pay for travel and, hotels, accommodation. You have to request time off of work or school or whatever you got going on. People have, stuff going on in their lives. And so normally you try to announce these things as soon as possible in advance. Obviously, it was a big point of concern in the community with the roadmap as a whole during the off season, was that they took forever and ever and ever to announce the dates for the entire year. And once they did announce the roadmap, we still didn't even have the dates for 2 of the 5 tournaments. And they took forever to announce the London dates, which for me personally, like I live in Nashville, so I live sort of southern central United States. So most tournaments are pretty easy for me to get to. I'm able to travel to most tournaments without issue. So selfishly, from my perspective, I've never had to deal with the problems that a lot of like European Halo fans have to deal with, where that travel is a lot more difficult for them because obviously they have to travel so much further, and there's so much more planning and preparation that needs to go into it, and also it's much more expensive. So I would have had a chance to go to London had they announced it a little sooner, but because they didn't, I unfortunately was not able to make it happen, and I will not be there in 3 weeks, which is gonna suck. But that's how it is, and I understand as well that that's that struggle for a lot of the international Halo fans, is that whenever they don't announce the events and take forever and ever to get the dates out. Obviously, that keeps a lot of people that would have liked to be at the tournament from actually, going. And obviously, just given the state of everything and everything that we've been talking about recently, like Halo, we want to be as helpful and as inclusive and everything as possible. I want the most amount of people showing up to this tournament as possible. I want it to be the most accessible and the most exciting and the least confusing. You know what I'm saying? Because we need more people going to the Halo tournaments, not less. But yeah, with all that being said, the jury is still out when it comes to the Atlanta Major. We don't know anything for sure at this point. So definitely hoping to receive some news on that pretty soon. And whether that's good news or bad news, hopefully it's good news and we'll get some dates. But if not, hopefully we'll get some sort of substitute maybe, or I don't know. But all that remains to be seen. So yeah, other than that, like I said, day 1 of Open Series, Pro Series was a few days ago. And day 2 of that tournament is going to be today, which is the top 12 of that tournament. So we'll probably talk about the results of this Pro Series on next week's show. And then also by that time, I believe a whole other Open Series will have passed, because the way that they're doing these, it's kind of confusing. 1 week is like day 1 of the tournaments on a Sunday, and day 2 of the tournaments on a Thursday, and then immediately after that, there's a 2-day tournament that's Saturday, Sunday. So in the span of a week, we essentially have 2 Open Series tournaments, which I still don't understand how or why that is the way that it is. I don't know which one is like a regular tournament, or maybe which one's qualifier for London, or maybe they're both qualifiers. technically they all are, because I think they're all for pro points, like HCS pro seeding overall. So I don't know. But regardless, a lot of open series, a lot of HCS stuff, and a lot of stuff to cover and watch and talk about. Which at the end of the day, like I know it's frustrating for pros and different people to have all that stuff going on and maybe not have a really good concrete reason for why we're having these tournaments. Like, but selfishly, as a content creator and as a Halo fan, it's cool because we have a lot of stuff to watch. So, but yeah, that's about it for the State of the Union this week, I think. Like I said earlier, it's been a good week. I've had a lot of fun myself. Like I said, I think I mentioned it on last week's show, but even though things have kind of been moving slow for Halo just in general, I've been having a lot of fun recently. I've been really enjoying the process, and I've been really enjoying making content. I've been really enjoying streaming and doing the HCS community events. We had another couple this past week that were actually so fun. We played last Monday, I believe. We played the Legendary Reach campaign, which was myself, Ubernick, Eli X, and Jeremy Stress. Had a blast doing that, as always. We soared through that shit in... it took us probably a little over 4 hours, I think, is how long it took us. Which was longer than I expected. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of talking shit about it beforehand. I thought it was going to be a lot shorter, especially given how fast we blazed through ODST and Halo 3. I was super surprised by how fast we got through Halo 3, because ODST I had remembered being one of the easier games on Legendary, so when we did that one and we made it through, plus I knew it was short, when that one didn't take a very long time, we got through that one in like probably 2.5, 3 hours. I think it was like 2.5 hours. I wasn't very surprised, but when we did Halo 3 on Legendary and we knocked that one out in game time, it was under 3 hours, because I think I got the achievement for beating every campaign mission in under 3 hours. I was actually really surprised with how fast we had done that one. But Reach, I think, took us a little over 4 hours, or maybe it was 4.5, maybe close to 5. But that was a lot of fun. You can go see it. The VOD is up on my second channel, which, by the way, go check that out. Link is in the description of every single video on YouTube. Or if you go to YouTube, it's Reclaimer with Clay spelled like my name, CLAY. But the VOD should already be up there, which, by the way, also, I know I'm plugging that stuff a lot, but go subscribe and follow my Twitch, because we're streaming every single day and there's tons of that stuff going up. But specifically for the second channel, there's playlists over there of every single game that I play through, and also there's specific playlists for grassroots events and also tournaments. So any tournament watch party I do for any online tournament, like specifically open series like we're talking about that's going on today, I'll be watch partying that, and the VOD will go up in a playlist over there, as well as any of the grassroots playdates, such as the Legendary Reach campaign, are all in a playlist. You can go watch all of them. And you can also go check out when we played through the ODST campaign, or when Jeremy Stress and I did the Halo 2 campaign, or when we did Halo 3. And then also, Nick actually made a great video on his channel of our ODST playthrough. And shout out to Nick and to Thomas, his editor, as well, because that video banged. And he made a video from our ODST playthrough, and I don't think he did for any of our others. And I haven't made one yet, but I think I'm going to try to turn all of them into YouTube videos at some point. I'm not sure when I'm going to end up doing that, because that's going to take some time to edit. But I definitely think that's something that I'm going to do at some point, because I think that would be a lot of fun. So obviously the VODs exist on my second channel. You can go watch them, but I think it would be cool to have those sort of immortalized as like actual videos on the channel that we can go back and revisit. Which, speaking of, before we get to the other playdate that I did this week, I just wanted to say thank you to anybody who watched the career Call of Duty highlights video that I put out. I know that was probably a little bit out of left field for some people, But as I mentioned in that video, in the outro of that video, Call of Duty for me has always been that like big second thing that I've always competed in, that I've always loved. That's sort of my big second thing outside of Halo. Growing up as a console FPS guy, it sort of makes sense. But those would be my two great loves. And obviously Halo was always like my main shit, because I've been like a lifelong Halo fan. And when I was a little kid, I was into the campaign, and I played customs with my friends, and that slowly evolved into growing interested in the competitive side of things, and then becoming a competitive player, and now a content creator. But Call of Duty, for me, I always enjoyed as a competitive outlet from the time that I was like really really young, which I think was evident from that video. That video spans 10 years, and you see me go from 14 to 24 in that video, which is really really interesting and really fun to see. And it's in some of those reactions from 14, 15-year-old me early on in that video are a little bit goofy and fun to look back at. But yeah, like I mentioned, I just had a lot of those clips building up kind of for years and years, and I didn't know what to do with all of them. And I mentioned this a lot, but it's sort of the same thing like we were talking about with the campaign playthrough videos a minute ago. But I am like a really sappy, nostalgic person, and one of my and my friends' favorite things to do is to go back and look at our old videos to sort of reminisce on like the good times. And it's something that myself and Cole, Prox, and also a lot of our other friends still do, is we'll go back and look at our highlights videos or our montages or our compilations from back in the day in Halo 5, because not only are those like not only are they cool like videos that we made at the time, but also like for us, those are revisiting, like if we go back and watch the highlights videos from years past, like that's revisiting like highlight moments from our friendship, if that makes sense. Like instead of us having those sort of nostalgic conversations of like, do you remember when this and this happened, or do you remember when so and so made this joke or did this really funny thing, like we have a video that we can go point to and go watch at any time. We're like, yo, you remember when so and so did this, or when we talked about this, or when we did this bit? Like it's in a video somewhere on somebody's channel, and we can go watch it at any time. And I've always thought that aspect of YouTube is really really cool. And so to sort of have that now with, I can go look at 10 years of me playing Call of Duty. I can go look at the evolution of me from a 14 to a 24-year-old, of how I got better at the game. You can sort of see my tendencies. You can also watch me just sort of grow as a person and as a player. It's all just really cool, and of course it's really nostalgic for me selfishly to be able to go back and look at that. But also, like I said, it was a little bit telling. I was watching and editing a lot of those clips back and thinking like I'm really sort of a one-trick pony here when it comes to a lot of this shit, because my ass ran around with a submachine gun and sniped an S&D, and those are the only two things I did in the entirety of that video. There were scarce occasions when I used an AR. I think the BAL shows up once, and then I don't think I use an AR again until like Modern Warfare 2. So I think there's like a 9-year gap where I don't use an AR, which is insane. But yeah, definitely. Also, selfishly, when I made the outro for that video, I definitely went a little harder than I had to with some of the shots in the music in that shit. And so definitely go give it a watch if you haven't. But like I said, I'm real nostalgic, sappy, emotional, stupid. So I don't know. I just like making shit like that. So go look at it if you're interested. But if not, that's cool. But yeah, like I said, thank you to those of you who watched that, because that wasn't really like I said, that was probably a little bit out of left field, and that was one of those kind of uploads where like we always say, like there are some uploads that you put on your channel that are like, I'm uploading this video to get views, and then there are some things you put up that are just sort of like passion project, just like this is for me. And that's kind of what that video was. So to anybody who watched that shit, you a real one, and I appreciate you, and yeah, that's kind of it as far as that goes. We were gonna talk about really quickly the other playdates that I did 2 or 3 days ago, I guess, from the point that you guys are listening to this. But we had a BTB playdate the other night, which I played with a bunch of people. See if I can remember everybody off the top of my head. It was myself, Nick, SJ, Oath, LVT, Brandon, who is Louis Vuitton, Real Life Spartan, Tony, Why Not, Tim, Active, and then oh man, there was one. Oh, and Eli X. There you go. And that was our 8, I think. But yeah, it was a BTB playdate. We played BTB for 2.5, 3 hours, something like that, maybe a little longer than that. But it was a super fun playdate. Had a great time. Just normal stuff. But then afterwards, we had sort of been talking about, throughout the night, like, oh, we're gonna play for a couple hours, whatever. But then whenever we all start to split off, because normally the way those HCS playdates work is we'll all get in a call together, but every, having 8 people in a Discord, or sometimes even more than that, like we've done BTB playdates with like 12 people before, having that many people in a Discord gets super chaotic, super hectic, and is only fun for a certain amount of time. So usually, like, the way those playdates work is we'll play for a couple hours, we'll play a few games, and then everybody will kind of split off and go do their own thing. And the drops last for however many hours, so everybody will split off and go keep streaming, but they'll go kind of do their own thing. So we had been talking throughout the night about, like, oh, we'll go play some ranked whenever everybody splits off. And me and Eli had wanted to play, and then I think Nick mentioned something about it, and then Brandon also mentioned something about it. So at the end of the night, everybody starts splitting off, and we go start playing our ranked games, and we had let me tell you, motherfuckers, we had a generational goddamn ranked session. We played over the course of, I think, 4 or so hours. We played 15 games and went 13-2. Had a absolutely godlike ranked session. I placed Diamond 5 out of my placement games. I think we had all just played our placement games. So I placed Diamond 5 out of my placement games. And from there, went from Diamond 5 to, I believe I'm like 1550 or something like that now. Absolutely godlike ranked session. And I'm sure that you guys will be seeing most likely several of those games from that session on the YouTube at some point, because a lot of those games were super fire. We had to clutch up in several of them. A lot of them came down to the wire. We had a couple absolute world star comebacks. I believe we had a crazy Strongholds comeback, and then also our last game of the night, we actually had just come off losing a live fire King of the Hill where we were down 0-3, and then we brought it back to 3-2, and we had lost on the 6th hill. And it was one of those super tilting losses. We were kind of getting fried, but then we fought hard and made it close. But we were getting our body shot. We're getting shit talked. It's been a long night. And I think Nick even mentioned something about it out loud, but he was like, we had such a godlike session. We won so many games. But if we got off on that note, that one game was going to piss me off. I was going to lose sleep over that game. And I know exactly what he's talking about. I know that exact feeling. And we were like, we're going to queue one more. Hopefully we're going to try to go out on a win. We get a Plaza Strongholds, or a Plaza King of the Hill, excuse me. We go down 0-3 again. We're getting fucking fried. And we made a generational World Star comeback from down 3-0 in this King of the Hill game, and won 4-3 in the dying seconds. It was pure, absolute cinema when I tell you. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this already, or if I was super clear about it, but our squad was myself, Eli X, Ubernick, and LVT Brandon. But yeah, came back from down 3-0. Absolute cinema, 13-2 record on the night. And like I said, I'm probably gonna upload a lot of those games. But I bring all that up to say, and you guys can probably tell by the fact that I just fucking told a story about it. Was one of the first nights that I've had like a lot of fun on Halo in a long motherfucking time. And those are the vibes that like I miss from like I have not felt that way about a night of Halo since Halo 5 probably. Which by the way, I don't know if y'all can hear the thunder now. Um but there were so many nights back in the day in Halo 5 where me and my friends would be on the game just queuing ranked, four stacking, just playing sweaty games until 2, 3 in the morning. And there have been very few of those nights in Halo Infinite. There's been a couple times, but I have rarely been engrossed and having fun and vibing and just enjoying sweaty Halo games the way that I did the other night. And so there's your wholesome Halo moment of the week, is that I had a great motherfucking time queuing ranked with three of my good homies for several hours. And we had some great games and we had some great teamwork. And like I said, the vibes were immaculate the entire time. Three brothers that I enjoy playing with. And I've been playing with Eli a lot recently, especially on Infinite. Nick is somebody who's obviously one of my better friends, somebody who's been one of my best friends in Halo for many, many years at this point. But he's somebody who I don't play ranked with very often. And obviously, LVT, Brandon, somebody who I don't game with motherfucking ever, because he be doing production shit all the time. But we turned out to be the generational ranked God Squad, I guess. And it was a great time. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that and talk about it for a little bit because, yeah, just another sort of positive thing that's been going on recently that for whatever reason, I mean, like I said, there's not been a lot going on with the game. There's kind of been some questionable stuff going on. We don't know if tournaments are going on. Shit's been kind of weird and slow, but I've been enjoying myself, man. I cannot lie. I've been enjoying the game and enjoying making stuff. So yeah, that's kind of been my shit recently, and that's kind of it for I believe the Halo stuff that I had to talk about this week. Pivoting very quickly, it is May, which is sort of unofficially the month of Star Wars. Obviously, May the 4th just passed this past week, which, by the way, happy May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. A little bit belated. If you are a Star Wars fan, I spent my May the 4th, I celebrated by seeing Phantom Menace in theaters again, which was awesome. For those of you that missed it, they re-released Phantom Menace in theaters. It is the 25th anniversary, I believe, since that movie released, and that was a ton of fun getting to watch that in theaters. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, 99 was before I was born. For those of you curious, I was born January 3rd, 2000. So if you're ever curious about how old I am, it's just whatever the year is, with the exception of January 1st and 2nd. But it's 2024 and I'm 24 years old. And when it's 2076, I'll be 76. When it's 2069, I'll be in your cheeks. But anyway, Phantom Menace was a ton of fun to watch in theaters. Obviously, 99 was before I was born. This is what I was saying before. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Stupid shit. But I never got to see Phantom Menace in theaters. The first Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters, which I grew up a lifelong Star Wars fan, by the way. The first Star Wars movie that I ever saw in theaters was Revenge of the Sith. My dad took me to see that movie when it first came out as a 5-year-old, and I believe my mom was horrified because Anakin does a lot of crazy, super nice things to kids in that movie. He'd be slicing up the younglings. But yeah, it was super cool to be able to watch that movie in theaters. Obviously, that movie gets a lot of shit, rightfully so, probably, for being one of the goofier entries in the series. But it was just so much fun to watch in theaters. Obviously, I sort of just self-reported by telling you guys when I was born, but I grew up a big fan of the prequels, because those were the movies I grew up on. So I'm able to, now that I'm 24 and have seen those movies several times in my adult life, I'm able to objectively say that like those movies are not the best. Specifically, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are pretty goofy in a lot of areas, and Revenge of the Sith I think is a really good movie, but it's probably the only critically good one, or I don't know the proper way to describe it, but it's probably the only like legitimately good movie of the three, and the other two are probably not great movies. However, my bias, I love them. And so rewatching Phantom Menace was a ton of fun because it's a movie that I've always loved. They've always had a soft spot in my heart because they're very nostalgic and they're comfort movies for me and all that stuff. But also just being able to get that sort of different experience, that theater experience of, I've watched Phantom Menace a million times. There's some more thunder for you. I've watched Phantom Menace a million times by myself and with my family, and recently also with my friends in the Discord. But I've never watched it with a packed theater where everybody's laughing at the goofy dialogue, and anytime Jar Jar does anything, and people are just like, it wasn't like a critical, we're watching and judging this movie. It was more of like a fun, lighthearted, we're all just watching and enjoying and vibing on this thing, and we can laugh at it when it's goofy, and we can enjoy it when it's cool, and it was just cool. It was awesome. And as a Star Wars fan, it was really fun. So with that being said, I have a picture from when I went to see it, but also somebody also posted on May the 4th a fire-ass, bomb-ass Star Wars edit that is one of the more fire things that I've seen in recent memory. So we're also I'm gonna pull up my Twitter real quick, and we're gonna check that out. So a little bit of a diversion here. We're gonna go to my Twitter really quickly, and we're gonna scroll down. So this was also, I was talking about this shit. This was when we went to see the Phantom Menace. Saw that in theaters again. Super fun. But then this is the edit I was talking about, and this is probably gonna get us copyrighted in some form or fashion, but fuck it. If you're listening to this podcast and you don't have the video up, then you just enjoy the song, I guess. But yeah, I saw this edit that somebody posted for May the 4th. Super sick. This comes from @Velmore Film Edit on Twitter and was reposted by another account. And this has got to be one of, if not the most fire edits I've ever seen, period, but also just Star Wars things. So we're gonna pull this up and peep this real quick.
So who talks first? You talk first. I talk first.
This shit is so gas. This goes so crazy.
I can do this. I can do this. I can do this.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. I'm rocking my feet. Put suckers in fear. I'm making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go boom.
The depth charge, bro. Nah, the motherfucker that made this snapped enormous, bro. So fire. Also, that's my goat right there. Also, I love that clip.
this party.
I'm gonna knock you out.
So fire. So motherfucking fire. So like I said, bro, the person that made that snapped enormous. That's one of the most fire things I ever seen. And it certainly got me in the mood for all my May the 4th festivities. So yeah, that was gas. And I brought it up a little bit, but that clip of George Lucas talking about, like, you know, they sort of rhyme. It's like poetry. It's one of my favorite clips. And also, I think my actual favorite clip is probably the clip of George Lucas when he's looking at the storyboards for Phantom Menace. And he's sort of standing back with his hands on his hips, and he's like, I may have gone too far in some places. That shit is so funny, bro. But yeah, man. Dope ass May the 4th stuff. So I've kind of for that reason been vibing back on Star Wars recently, but also I've kind of been back vibing on Star Wars for the past couple months. I mentioned a couple episodes ago, been rewatching Clone Wars chronological order, which I have been slacking on in recent weeks, but I need to get back to. Number one thing that I think I wanted to do for May being Star Wars month is play some sort of Star Wars game on stream. So at the moment we are about to finish GTA 5 on stream, and then I think we have Hogwarts Legacy we need to finish. But because it's Star Wars month, we might start something else before then. So I was thinking maybe we do like Jedi Fallen Order, because I've played the first one, but I haven't played the second one, and I just picked up the second one, Jedi Survivor, I think it's called. I just picked that one up because it was on sale. So I need to play through that one, and I also need to play through Fallen Order again because it's been since I think 2020 since I've played it. So we might play those on stream. We might. They just released obviously the Battlefront Classic Collection a month or two ago, which I don't know if that's been fixed, but we might do like some Galactic Conquest or something. I've wanted to replay Force Unleashed for a couple years now. Yeah, there's a lot of things we could do. But let me know what you guys think about that. And also, if you are a Star Wars fan, let me know what you did for May the 4th, if anything. But yeah, that's kind of my Star Wars segment of the show today, I guess. Just to go over my sports real quick, we've been talking about baseball and basketball the last couple weeks. My Braves off to a great start to their season. Went over to LA to play the Dodgers this past week and got absolutely dicked down, got piss slammed. Got swept by the Dodgers in LA, which was unfortunate. And now I believe we just won the second game of the series, but I believe we're in the process of piss slamming the Red Sox. So a little bit of an unfortunate set of games for the Braves in LA, but hopefully, obviously, we'll be able to get the revenge. It's a long season. It's 162 motherfucking games, so hopefully that goes well. We're into the second round of the NBA playoffs, and a lot of the matchups are starting to get very good. The main takeaway from this playoff run thus far, I think, has been that the Timberwolves, and specifically Anthony Edwards, are the motherfucking truth, and the Timberwolves also at this point might be like a generational fucking defensive team. I don't know if anybody listening to this watches ball like that, but they have not come out of nowhere because they've kind of been like they've been a play-in team, kind of like sort of on the fringes for the past couple of years. But they have had a meteoric rise this season and have just been absolutely electric to watch. They're an electric factory when it comes to just like, bro, their games are cinema, and specifically Ant Edwards has injected all kinds of energy into them. Obviously, he's nice as fuck. He is incredibly talented, but also he's like that. He's like the complete package as a player. He's incredibly gifted as a player, and he's like that. He is clutch, and he is he's sort of got that dog, that sort of Kobe, like he's willing to shoot no matter what. He wants the ball in his hands at all times, but also like he's a good teammate. He's a shit talker. He ain't scared of nobody. He already had that moment in the playoffs talking shit to KD and doing all that shit. But also like he's like well spoken in the media, and like there was that moment the other night where he was sort of like sticking up for Karl Anthony Towns with the reporters and stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm just incredibly impressed with the Timberwolves as a whole, but also specifically Ant Edwards, because like obviously, like I said, they've been good for a couple years, but they're really like that, like this playoff run. And if we're not careful, they could be motherfucking champions here in a couple weeks. I think the Celtics are probably the favorite to win it all, because they probably have like the best team on paper. But all that remains to be seen. We still have the T-Wolves are up 2-0 on the Nuggets currently and are just bullying them at the moment. I believe the Cavs are playing the Celtics. The Knicks, I think, are up 2-0 on the Pacers at the moment, and I think there's been some kind of controversies with the calls in that series, but I don't know, I haven't been watching super closely. And then also the other series is the Mavs and the Thunder. I think that's it. But yeah, it'll be super interesting to see how all that plays out and see who comes away with it. But like I said, if we're not careful, the motherfucking Timberwolves could be NBA champions here in a couple weeks, which would be a sight to fucking see, let me tell you. But yeah, that's what I've been watching. Other than that, I'm still on Mass Effect 2. We talked about it last week, but I'm still on Mass Effect 2. I just did the Reaper IFF mission. So for those of you Mass Effect ball knowers, I just did the Reaper IFF mission, and I just did like one side mission. So I think I have like one more thing, or maybe the next time I like load up the game, it's gonna be like the collector shit and like going into the final mission. So I'm finally there. I've done all the loyalty missions. I've set up all the dice in the proper areas. I've constructed my Rube Goldberg contraption of a Mass Effect playthrough in such a fashion, in such a form, in such a fashion that I think I'm going to be able to get everybody through this suicide mission at the end of Mass Effect 2. I think my entire crew is going to survive, assuming I make the correct decisions on the crew and stuff. But I have a Reddit post that I'm consulting, so I think I'm good there. But I think I've made all the correct decisions. I think I have all the ship upgrades. I think I've done all the things. And then after that, I'll be on to Mass Effect 3, which, like I said, we still got to play those games on stream. But yeah, with all that being said, I believe that is all that I have to report for this week. So not a very eventful week, but also I had more stuff to talk about than I thought I did, which I think is going to be a running theme of this podcast. But yeah, like I said, that is probably going to do it for our show this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me ramble for another 45 minutes this week. I appreciate you spending your time with me. I hope this was an enjoyable episode. And yeah, remember to get after me and let me know what you'd like to see me talk about. And also, like I mentioned earlier in the show, let me know what you did for May the 4th, or if you are doing anything, if you are a Star Wars fan. And also what you think about the Halo stuff. And also, if we're worried about not receiving news about Halo for a while, and just generally how we're feeling. Remember to just sort of let me know, whether that be in my Discord. You can join my Discord server. You can tweet me. You can go shoot me a comment on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. But I'd love to talk to you guys more and connect with you guys more. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna let you guys get on with the rest of your day or night or whatever you got going on. But I appreciate you spending some more time with me this week. And yeah, I hope you guys have a dope week. And remember to go check out all of our links: Twitch, Twitter, Discord, podcast. All that stuff is linked. As well as if you're listening to this podcast, Remember to go check us out on YouTube. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, link is in the description to listen to this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on Amazon Podcast, we're on Apple Podcast. So yeah, go check us out, go listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. But yeah, with all that out of the way, I believe that is finally going to do it for us today. So appreciate you stopping by for another episode of the Highlight Reel. Much love, much respect, as always. Catch y'all right back here next week. Stay tuned, everybody.